Right, we're going to do the most devastating downfalls of UFC champions. There's a lot of ups and downs being a fan of any particular fighter. Unless you're a fan of John Jones, of course, in which case you'll probably find you're just a bit downs yourself. But seriously, it's what makes this sport so amazing to watch. There's nothing quite like seeing a fighter that you've been a fan of for a while become the champion. A number of times I've sat there watching a fighter become champ whilst fighting back the tears like I'm at a Dricus du Plessis press conference. Grabbing the tissues like I'm Ian Gary sitting in his favourite corner of his bedroom. On the other side of things though, sadly, is watching a fighter that you love fall off a steep cliff. The drop-offs can be quick and ruthless. And in this video, I'm going to go through some of the most devastating. First up, we've got Tyrone Woodley. Tyrone's reign ran from 2016 to 2019. He seemed unstoppable. I remember at the time there was a lot of talk about Tyrone getting to the point where he was about to pass GSP. It sounds crazy now saying it, seeing what happened to him. But going into that Usman fight, it seemed like it was going to be just business as usual for the champ. But then Kamaru completely outworked and dominated him. It was a total shutdown. And that was it. After that, he just couldn't regain his form. Loss after loss. Then he thought he tried to box. And then a video came out of him eating a box, which actually was a little slight uptick in the graph of his downfall. But losing to Jake Paul pretty much washed away anything left of his legacy. And then fighting Paul again and getting knocked spark out finished it. In just a few years, he went from being compared to GSP to being a meme. On to the next one is Tony Ferguson. Now yes, if you want to be picky, he was only interim champ. But come on, championship only. I make the rules, I'll do what I want. Now this one is a classic case of the MMA gods giveth and the MMA gods taketh away. Pre-Gagey Tony was a true legend. An incredible 12-fight win streak from 2013 to 2019. I don't know if you were there, if you remember, but he was the type of guy to give his corner advice in between the rounds. He was the type of guy to wake everyone up, to tell him he's going to bed. Tony Ferguson was the type of guy to look up and down before crossing the road. He was the type of guy to take a shit in the USADA Test Cup. He had a relentless pace, unorthodox striking and dangerous submission game. Tony was a pleasure to watch. I personally feel that it was his lack of defence sometimes that added an element of danger and vulnerability to him that made it even more exciting to watch him. And then after the Khabib fight fell apart for the millionth time, Tony took on Justin Gaethje for the interim title. I can't help but feel like Tony drew energy from the crowd, and not having a crowd for that fight played a big factor. But I'm not taking anything away from Gaethje. He put on a clinic. It was truly heartbreaking to watch that fight play out. Tony, too tough for his own good, took a lot of damage in that fight. That moment where Tony shook his head after a solid shot from Gaethje was just traumatic, and it changed him forever. He was never the same, and he's never won a fight since. There's been flashes of the old Tony here and there, but the whole thing has just been really depressing. He's now on an 8-fight losing streak, each time fans praying that he'll retire. After his recent loss to Don't Talk About My Mum, he kind of retired, but let's just hope it sticks. Next up is Cody Garbrandt. He had a short but bright and dramatic rise and fall as champion. He looked incredible against Dominic Cruz, but after the 2 losses to the one-armed Royd Bandit, he never recovered. His chin only got worse, and his career is currently circling the drain. Ronda Rousey's downfall was epic, and if we're honest, it was quite satisfying also. Joe Rogan had gaslit us all into thinking she was unbeatable. We saw the footage of her shadow boxing looking like a disabled person, and we all ignored it, but that Holly Holm fight was exciting to watch. In the lead up to that fight, Ronda Rousey had done a press run in which she was the manifestation of drinking your own Kool-Aid. And after that loss, she did not take it well. Shrek then dismantled her in 48 seconds, sending her packing off to the WWE. Alexander Volkanovski, what did you do? I fear we may be right in the middle of this downfall. It was all going so great. Alexander the Great, but he got greedy and then he got impatient, and now he's in a tough spot. It's not over yet for Volk, but it's vital that these next couple of moves go well. Luckily, he's been out for a while already since the Elia knockout, and there's currently no fight news, which is a good sign. Hopefully the time away will fill him up and give him enough juice for another go at the top. But I thought I'd include him here, as the last year and a half has been tough. Conor McGregor. This is a funny one, because it's hard to include someone in a video about downfalls when he's got more money than a lot of small countries. But for the athlete and the man and the legacy, it's a different story. Conor's rise was what personally got me and a lot of people into the sport. He was a fantastic talent, and he was amazing on the mic with an electric persona. Then boxing came along and ruined it all. It was all fun and games at the time, and it's weird to say this, but he made too much money. and he's been an absolute twat waffle ever since. I'm not saying he would have beaten Khabib if he didn't box, but who knows? What we do know though is that he now just uses the UFC to stay relevant, while he does coke off a midget's back crease, gets noshed off by D on the yacht, and parades around at events looking like someone's dressed up as him for Halloween. It's a shame to see. I wasn't around for the best years of Anderson Silva, but I was there at the end. I've seen the stats and I've watched the fights. Sadly, it's not quite the same as actually being there as it all unfolds. Let's face it, the first Weidman fight didn't count. He was playing around, being cocky, and he got caught. It was the second fight that was the real beginning of the end. It's not so much that he lost, it was a freak accident, which feels like it makes it even worse. After that leg injury, he was never the same. From that point on, it was just a downward spiral, ending with fighting Jake Paul. And now, I'm just going to mention a few that were before my time, but they need to be recognised in this list. BJ Penn, one of the most naturally gifted fighters ever to compete in the UFC. A 2-division champion, but after losing to Frankie Edgar in 2010, he had quite a steep fall, losing his next 9 fights, and on top of that, he went on to have a lot of personal and legal troubles, all ultimately leading to his downfall. And then we got Chuck Liddell, a fan favourite, one of MMA's first icons. His chin, once seen as indestructible, became a liability, and he was brutally finished in his last 3 fights, leading to his retirement, and then coming back in a bad taste matchup against his longtime foe Tito Ortiz. The whole thing was a mess, and it was a shame to end such an iconic career in such a trashy way. So there you go. The next set of downfalls, we're all going to be watching live. Let's just hope it's the twats and not the good ones. Let me know in the comments if you think I've missed any. I'll leave a link to my Patreon in the comments if you're interested. And if you like this video, give us a sub, check out this playlist of recent bangers. I'll see you next time.